Yeah, so it's the branches, the government power. So since we have a board of supervisors and the mayor, you know, I think the ultimate decision should be, you know, of course, with the people, but let's make the decision, like I said, with that power base. Get the supervisors, the mayor, and the health department, and the economic and workforce development in the room, and just figure out, like I said, that plan. If it's a 2 weeks or 3 weeks plan, what does it look like? We know the school is not being finna open up again. So are we going to open up the malls? And how many people can get in the mall? I mean, you got to start looking at this stuff when you start talking about open up. So
Right.
I just think it still goes according to the plan. And since we have that branch of government, and um, actually bring it to the board of supervisors meeting, where everybody can weigh in on Tuesdays. Everybody from San Francisco can weigh in on Tuesdays. Bring it up as one of the agenda items, and just have folks weigh in on it.
Well, some of the challenges, Aris, and I know a lot of people I've talked to in recent days for our community, and some of the concerns is about, you know, this can be the death blow to unity for communities that's already struggling to socialize. I mean,
Right.
if you already don't socialize as a community, you're not talking to each other, you're not a real village, you're not really working with each other, or collaborating with each other as organizations, then now you get this order that's saying you got to stay away from everybody. So just calling a meeting will literally be impossible on the direction we're heading into, and it won't benefit none of us if we don't kind of get in the ear of the officials, like you're saying, supervisors go to the meeting, or well, you can't go to the meeting, but actually tune in. The supervisors are still meeting, but it's by teleconference, and you can call in every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and you can weigh in on some of the issues and some of the resolutions and ordinances that they're passing dealing with this COVID-19. But it's definitely troubling to see our city officials as well as the state continue to say, we really don't know. Well, it's been a month, and not to insult anyone, to claim to be an expert and to, tell us to just trust our government, we have to question anyone who tells us that, no ending in sight, because people again is suffering, and I don't think we would be it would be fair to ourselves, and we owe it to ourselves and families and communities. Like, look, well, what the hell have you been doing for the last 4 weeks if you don't know a date? You have the technology, you have the people with the know-how. Of course, in San Francisco, you have one of the largest budgets in the world. We do not expect our city to not have answers, and that's one of the things, areas that I'm a little puzzled by, is that why is there so many people saying we don't know? We don't know how you necessarily get it. We don't know if it ever disappear. Is the COVID-19 on your shoes? I mean, the list goes on, and it's starting to sound almost like a kindergarten conversation among people, because now you have people literally going back and forth on, do you want to wear the mask? Should you wear the mask? Should it be mandatory? And they're disregarding the guidelines of the CDC, which everyone claims to be following. So, what are your thoughts? And should we really start pressing? Speaking of going to City Hall, should we start really demanding more on our officials and even our community so-called leaders to stop pandering politicians, and let's really start dealing with this, the seriousness of this, because to just downplay it and act as if we're just going to continue to listen to those that say this is so serious and we're so concerned about lives that you must just follow, I think would be probably uh, something that we'll regret. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we need a like I said, the only thing I can think of once again is just making it a board of supervisors agenda, and it can be actually a hearing, a COVID-19 hearing,
Good idea.
you
COVID
know,
19 hearing.
to
Do you
figure
hear
out
that?
the beginning, the middle, and the end. And that can happen right away. Like I said, just to call a hearing to see if we should open up the government. And the hearing can go to understanding of this is where the experts will come in and weigh in at, okay, well, this is how you get it. This is where we at now. You know, um, this will get us the data that we've been talking about, the people that's been infected, the people that's been healed, the people that have died. This will give everything in that hearing. And the hearing, should be very soon.
That is to me a great response to that question. You know, a hearing would definitely really, I think, ease some of the building tension, and I'm hoping our city officials is listening and someone pass on that message on what Eris just stated, that a hearing, among the city top leaders and officials, and definitely the health department, uh, and even our small business commission. Get everybody as much as you can together that could really speak to what is the real plan of opening up. Because I can't say in this time that for April, what's today, 15th, that I necessarily agree with all of the decisions that have been made and that's constantly coming out every day on our direction. Uh, I don't claim, and I know you don't, Eris, to know everything about this outbreak. However, I, like you, I want to see the best outcome and the best result that really would not compromise and put people in a position where they feel that they're jeopardizing their lives because they now they open up the business community, they open up the schools, which is going to happen. But when you hear uh, like the Los Angeles, I believe, mayor said today, or maybe it was yesterday, about no sporting events is going to happen until 2021. That's really big. Not that we promoting sports, so don't even go there. We, you're sending these messages out there, like I said 2 weeks or a week ago, about when the media posts the COVID-19 statistics of people dying, but not reporting people recovering from the COVID-19. You're sending the wrong message, and you actually are pushing the panic button. We all have a panic button, right? And if the alarm go off in this room, me and Eris would be really insane to stay in here, and it's a fire alarm without at least checking. But when you push people panic button, you got somebody has got to know how to turn it off. And this is the fear of all this becoming politicized, and then now we're not talking to each other. So we're trying to preempt that, because I can kind of see that the nation is going to eventually start tearing each other apart between the partisan politics. And we need bipartisan politics going on, if any politics is going to be happening today. So we're in the middle of an election year. We're dealing with the COVID-19. We have a financial reality or financial health of the city, the nation, that will have to be addressed. What Eris has just said, which is very true and a good ideal, is that the city establish some communication, whether it's a town hall, hearing online, or something like that. It would be good now for the city to really start asking the people, what are your thoughts? And what could you help us make this decision? Because we can't trust. Now, let me say something before I pass it back on to Eris. And this may be something a lot of people don't know about, and some people do know about. And, if you've been here in San Francisco, you definitely have heard of it. In 2006, or it's around the middle of 2000, the 2000s. So I was at a meeting, and a young man by the name of Christopher Carpenter came into the meeting. We was actually dealing with policing in San Francisco, community policing. And, he abruptly came into the meeting and said, look, I got to talk to y'all. We was at a meeting planning of a lot of community members trying to figure out what was going to be our community policing plan. And at that time, how would we address the murders that was happening throughout the neighborhood and the city? And he said, look, I work up on the hill of Bayview Hunters Point, the shipyard. And, my supervisor is telling us as the workers that we need to go home because a lot of the toxics that was happening out there while they was doing this heavy grading on the hill was causing the numbers to exceed the limit. I mean, he didn't know the technical part of it, and I don't know fully the technical part of it either. But in other words, the toxicities was airborne, and it was impacting the community. But they was not warning the community; it was telling the workers, "You need to go home." So he was concerned about that because not only was he a worker on a shipyard, he was born and raised in that community, and he was like, "Let me now go warn the community." And they actually told him to not say anything. So Christopher Carpenter, which we should always salute, put his not only job on the line, but he put his health on the line, working up there for years and continuing trying to be the voice for the community that, look, y'all being poisoned by toxicities. So the school that was nearby, adjacent to what happened, the children was being exposed at the neighborhood school, the community school, which is Muhammad University. And when, those of us got wind of this, we was outraged. It was like, what is the city going to do about this? The corporation that at the time that literally was over the development, and again, some of you might know about this or heard about this, was Lenore Corporations, which is this big company that's on the stock market and nationwide and really have a lot of power, a lot of political power in San Francisco. So we went to Lenore, and Lenore said, one of the officials at the time said, don't worry about these numbers and the exposure because the risk is so low. And even if something happened, you'd be almost 80 before you die. And I'm not quoting the guy who actually said that to us from Lenore, but he was actually saying that, look, you don't have to worry about this because you're being exposed. Now, he didn't say you're not being exposed, but he was saying the risk is so low, you don't have to worry about this. So what do this got to do with what I'm talking about now? Ultimately, the city of San Francisco, the health department, at the time, the mayor, which was Gavin Newsom, all those city officials that we went to and explained, look, we need for you to put a moratorium in place and stop this development so we can do the testing just to see. Right. We're not saying stop the development forever. At the time, we only wanted the city to see that you have the power to stop this, and let's look at it. Let's intelligently bring everyone around the table so we can see. But the city was saying, no, we don't want this to stop jobs and housing. Do y'all remember that? You remember that jobs and housing was the big cry. And the city allowed Lenore to continue. There was a lot of community meetings, and there was a lot of back and forth between the community in terms of what the community actually wanted, because the city went around the community saying that, look, they're trying to kill your jobs. And unfortunately, now it comes out years later when you hear on the news that we was absolutely correct, that the children was being exposed, the community was being exposed. Hell, I've personally have probably even been exposed, and this is why I did sign, by the way, the class action lawsuit to hold the city and these companies responsible for lying about the toxicities in Bayview Hunters Point. Now, the guy Mitch Katz, who's now currently that is funny, right? Because Mitch Katz is currently the health department in New York City director, but at that time he was the health department director of San Francisco. Now he's the guy that is the one to tell the mayor of New York City about the COVID-19 and what's happening. He's the director, and it's crazy to think that this is the same guy that told us everything was okay. I don't think it's wise for us to forget history. We lost a lot of people from that community. We lost Marie Harris, which was one of our frontline soldiers that helped us push the SLAM, which was at that time Stop Lenore Action Movement. Marie Harris was a wonderful person. Marie Harris worked tirelessly day and night with Green Action, and we lost her early due to cancer, due to becoming sick. We lost many people, even Christopher Carpenter, since we had that issue. And I think, we would be not telling ourselves the truth that we can't just put all our trust in what's coming out of the health department, because we have a history of the health department allowing politics to get in the way of protecting people. And even at that time, I sat in 2000, I believe 7 or 8, I sat on the Restoration Advisory Board, which was the advisory board to the United States Navy. And then one of our, at the time, Supervisor Sophie Maxwell disbanded the board. She said there was no need for the board any longer. And we didn't agree with our supervisor at the time of District 10, Sophie Maxwell. She disbanded the board at a time when that board was the community voice.
Right.
And I just brought that up, Eris, and I know you remember the struggle of the community trying to get the city to see that the community was being exposed to these toxic. And I just wanted to give that this quick little story, or that little, backdrop of why we should question our health department to the fullest. Because if you see the same people over time and you see them saying the same thing, and then over time the facts come out, then maybe 5-10 years from now you'll hear people saying, you know what, man, in 2020, that COVID-19, man, they wasn't telling us everything what was going on. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think as before speaking, we talk about organizations and, things like that. And of course, as we were talking, always talking, people don't understand, man, the work that goes on in people's lives and what people do. Specifically, I guess when put me or you on the stand to where I don't know how to play Call of Duty. I can't. I don't know how to play Call of Duty. I don't know how to play NBA Live. I don't know how to sit there and play video games. I do know my community is in need, and I know I'll show up to a meeting and get an understanding of what's going on. And I'm bringing that point up because you just brought up something that was really key. Because as long as we've been doing this stuff, you see, of course, you see, politicians grow,
Right.
but you start seeing DAs go to different cities. You start seeing everybody in different parts of states and cities in different roles. Police officers, they can shoot somebody here, kill somebody here, and might then go to New York, and become a whole new officer. So it is a following of the pattern of um, when you start following people in politics and things like that. So in that government strategy, in which now you even have the police that sign on to the for the lawsuit, the class action lawsuit, the police that worked out at Bayview Hunters Point, uh, actually, I think they made up their own lawsuit too to try to sue the city. But the whole thing is what you're saying is correct. It's um, if we don't do the research ourselves, and not start just with, okay, this is what the health department said, this is what the mayor said, this is what everybody else said. Let's fact find some things
Right.
as you put together. The Bayview shipyards was a key thing that happened in the black community, in the heart of the black community, to whereas now everybody want a piece of it with this lawsuit. But you didn't come to no meeting. You weren't on the front line. You didn't understand. You was against the whole thing. But those that bought houses out there, that was against the movement because they thought they was coming up with $1 million house. To whereas now they're protesting because they feel like it's toxic. So in some way, we have to come together and understand that everybody out here grassroots, everybody out here that's protesting stuff, investigate why they're doing it. Don't just leave us out to dry and say, well, brothers ain't got nothing else to do. They ain't working. They ain't doing nothing. But this stuff is serious.
Yeah.
When you can bring this stuff up and fact find, the same director, as you said, is in New York, with all the cases of COVID-19, that didn't want to do nothing about not even to say a simple, but an area, not even a whole city, but an area of toxic waste. So if they don't give us an opportunity to start looking around and figuring out how to investigate or how to do some research on our own,
That's well
that's
said.
it.
No, I mean that's well said. Eric, because at the end of the day, I'll challenge anyone and I'll challenge anybody that would make a statement that we're just not doing any work. We fought against Lennar corporations for almost 7 years, or 6 to 7 years, and we went literally to over maybe 100 meetings, community meetings, board meetings, Bay Area Air Quality District. Uh, we actually went to even the Vallejo City Hall meeting to deal with Lenore when they was working out at Mare Islands. We went to the health department meetings. We went to of course, the Board of Supervisors meeting. We went to the Board of Supervisors committee level meetings that dealt with land use. We went to there was actually an agency that deals with the toxicities that we met with them. We met with Barbara Boxer office. We met with Gavin Newsom. We met with the San Francisco Redevelopment Agency. We met with the DA at the time. I mean, hell, we even talked to I believe it was the FBI at a certain point because we was getting no response from this so-called San Francisco that's supposed to be a sanctuary city, a democratic city, love everybody, want everybody to succeed. I mean, don't give us lip service. We need action. And again, in a city like this, we ought to be ashamed of ourselves that we have to go back and look at history. And now even the same people who fought us so hard when Stop Lenore Action Movement was telling them the truth will have the nerve to say, we want you to trust us again. That is not going to happen. And I would say straight up for any politician, any candidate or current politician, we don't need weak-boned politicians. Weak-boned politicians produce weak agendas. They produce weak results. And oftentimes all they're looking for is weak people in terms of what they're really trying to establish for the people to follow them. So when you see, uh, this thing play itself out, I can't vote for Joe Biden. I will not vote for Joe Biden. And I'm not going to allow anyone to tell me some of the policies that came out of the administration of Bill Clinton and Joe Biden supported and even sponsored. We just need to move on, forget, or even forgive because people make mistakes. No, people went to prison. People are still dealing with the horrific mandatory sentences that came out of the Clinton administration. So, I just want to send a message to all those who always trying to be a cheerleader of the status quo. Be quiet. We don't need cheerleaders for somebody doing wrong. We need cheerleaders for somebody who's doing right. And if you don't have enough courage to be a man and a woman and state the truth about some of these politicians, then you just need to be quiet. Don't come to our community trying to sell a politician that has not done anything for us. This is why I'm interested in politics. I'm not a politician. And I don't think that's what you claim in areas in terms of wanting to see our Board of Education and wanting to see our city move away from the issues we have with the educational gap. What we're saying is this: politics need to change. And if you putting your party before the people, you really don't even deserve for us to pay you no attention at all. Because there's some things good about what some of the politicians have done in position in terms of whether they're Democrats or even Republicans. And you should have enough sense to understand that it's okay to tell someone you're doing a good job. It's okay to say, what Mitch Catch, what the city, they made a mistake. Although we don't know if that repaired the damages, because like I said before, people lost their lives. And Marie Harris, that I brought up, was on that restoration advisory board along with myself. And at the time, brother Leon Muhammad. So, I think he said, anyway, we had a board with a good makeup of slam of the community that took a strong position. But Marie Harris sat on that board with me, and she actually was on the board before me, and we had great people working towards, dealing with the environmental, toxics. And she's not here with us any longer. So I just want to send this challenge out to all of us, who claims or who want to be considered as leading somebody. I want to be someone that people look towards for guidance. Well, we can't follow blind people. The blind leading the blind, the rest. We have to follow people who have a clear vision. And if you fell in the ditch in 2006, you'll fall in the ditch in 2020. So with all of this that's taking place, Aris, we have a lot of responsibility and like what we're doing in terms of communicating and getting the word out. But there seems to be a gap or a disconnect from us in our community, in particular the Black community, on speaking about the Black community as a whole. Now, I know everyone, speaking of politics, want to be politically correct. Is there any such thing, and this may sound kind of strange, is there such thing as the Black community? Or is that something we just, dreaming that really don't even exist?
Well, I know now, everybody's looking at it from a perspective of all over San Francisco and, calling Fillmore, calling Baby Hunters Point, Sunnydale, Trail Hill, wherever we are, we're one Black community.
Right.
Is where, everybody's trying to get to. But the issue with that is and I guess they do have the culture district in Bayview Hunters Point. Um, but really, to define an area in San Francisco as a black community, um, I don't think that we have came up with it from the people. And then the city hasn't just said, okay, well, I am going to make sure that we designate, just saying right now, Bayview Hunters Point. It's already got the culture district. Put a sign up and saying, welcome to Bayview Hunters Point, black community, African American community, however you want to put it. The same way they got the little Zion sign, the same way they got the welcome to Japantown sign, the same way you say up the freeway, welcome to Chinatown. I mean, so, but it's up to us really to, and we really should have been meeting, I guess, offline, you know, uh, all this time with this, 3 or 4 weeks. Whereas, can we really build something?
Right.
I mean, because we got Bayview Hunters Point fighting, we got Fillmore fighting for, we got a heritage center. We just fighting for the black community, but we really need to get that understanding, though. Really, and I know there's been a movement of black nonprofits joining forces in San Francisco across town. So at least it's that started.
Well, that's a good point, and we've, me and you, and of course many others, we've been on the front line again, another front line dealing with the Fillmore Heritage Center. And, when we seen trouble taking place in terms of how the community was relating to the Fillmore Heritage Center, we sent at that time in 2000, I believe 12 or 2013, the owner, Michael Johnson, and his company uh, letters to request to get an understanding on what the direction of the Fillmore Heritage Center. To say that, like, so, I think you're right. And we need to have a communication on where do we go from here, because whether we're talking about the Heritage Center or even the substation, unfortunately, bad planning have put us in a position that we don't know what's the next steps. And it's okay to have meetings among the community, to have a discussion with the community about the community ideas or even the vision of the community. But I don't think we want to keep beating a dead horse. And what I mean by that, our mayor, London, called for 3 workshops at the West Bay. Remember the 3 workshops? Mm-hmm. And we all place on the wall and actually the postal boards little information about individually what we thought would be the best idea going forward, bringing the Heritage Center, or creating this request for proposal for a new entity to come in and be the owner of the Heritage Center. That was done. The people spoke, and most people agreed with some of the ideas that we proposed, which was at the time a community benefits plan. Mm-hmm. And to now say we need to again have meetings, it's not a bad thing, and I don't object to that, and that's why I participated, and I know you have too, in every meeting that would be called by people who's concerned. But I think sometime again, since the community don't have a long-term plan, the politics get in the way of us really making progress. Because if we're selecting people based on, I know you, but I don't really know if you can do the job.
Right.
Then it's okay. I want to see people, do well, and I want to see people in powerful positions. And I know you do too. Everybody, that's what we're doing all this for. We're doing this to help people, and definitely to help the communities that's in greater need of help. That's the whole purpose of a community benefit plan. But we have to come to grip with that. It's so important that we all know each other's strength and weaknesses, and everyone, you know, play or stay in a lane that we know we can get the best out of them, and they play their role. Because at the end of the day, that's the one good thing about how government, when it's ran correctly, our system works very well. You have people stay in a lane and understand that, look, I am the director of the Muni. I'm gonna deal with Muni. I'm gonna address Muni issues, and I should be somewhat educated, and I will be if I'm serious about Muni. But then you have someone say, well, look, this department over here is someone who deals with what a department.
That works. Probably works.
Yeah, Department of Public Works or the building inspector.
Yeah.
My point is that systems work great when people are all in their lane and everybody understand their assignment. But for the Heritage Center, I think one of the things that is was disappointing is that everybody can't actually take on the same task and the same role. Now, I knew when I came aboard and worked with others that my role was different from other people's role.
Right.
And this is why, while some were saying we need to just have events, events, I was saying you're right. But I really thought that part of that we should take time out to think about the business aspect and ownership. You know, if we don't take time and think out about the ownership, then time was ticking, and then of course now, since we're not necessarily in position of having the building open, and now of course with this outbreak, it makes it even seem, this doesn't seem right that we did all that work, put all that time and energy, and now it seems like we have to go back to square one. You know, so what you're saying and I'm hearing and what a lot of people are saying is that basically when I say, and I'm not saying it to be humorous, but does the black community exist, or is it just me and you? I mean, is it just me and you in terms of who's concerned? I mean, because I just don't hear. I mean, I know they're out there. I know people, you know, have spoken in the past, but it seems to me every year there's a certain diminish of concern about, are we going to make things better, and it's like I always say, I didn't get the memo. If the memo has been sent out among us that it's time to stop, which we're not going to do. Right. I mean, we're going to we're fighting for our families, we're fighting for the community, we're fighting for the city, we're fighting for the district, we're fighting for the education. But then at the same time, it seems to be like it's a memo that is circulated and we don't get that memo. Did you get the memo?
No, I didn't get that memo. But I think the whole thing is, though, man, is really we haven't been conditioned to understand that I use the thing as, I'm going to raise my daughter in the neighborhood. That means I got to raise the young men in the neighborhood so she can have a proper husband or boyfriend, right, whatever it is. Many times we don't look at the problem as a whole. We look at the problem as just an inside thing. Is the black community, we're suffering, as a whole, to bring it to, the community, we're struggling with black men, and we're struggling with single parents, which are usually the mothers,
right.
So we got a community in which we're not talking amongst each other of the issues and the crises that we face as a community inside our own households. Divorces, who even get married, all that stuff. We're fighting inside the households. Then we're trying to build a larger community of the structure. But I think somehow we got to get back into just a communication of how can we build our families? How can we help you as a family stay together, stay economic development, stay all that stuff, physically, financially, whatever it is. We rebuild families. We can rebuild communities.
Yeah.
I think that's how we're going to build a black community. Is we built a black family.
Well, and you know what you say, Eris, and everyone who's listening. Eris have proven with years of producing the Black Family Day that the strategy should be, and he's absolutely right, and I agree, 100% that the family is the foundation. Now, you know, and it's okay, I think if people have different strategies, but I think we should have enough sense to sit down and say, well, look, what's working, what's not working, and like you say, it starts with an individual, and then of course it spreads to your immediate family, um, and then abroad. But you're right. If the household is not together and we're not trying to, I'm not saying that, we're not stating that everything going to be perfect because, of course, there's a lot of damage from, the drugs, unemployment, mental health, uh, domestic violence, child abuse uh, that we've been dealing with for years. And it's really taking its toll. And a lot of times we already know the history that they removed the man and put the man in prison. And now the mother and the children have to literally try to fight and survive for themselves. And oftentimes, whether, we're talking about the way the system is designed, there's always something, it's credit, it's child support,
Right.
it's student debt, it's always something that keeps the man in a weak, you know, uh, unstable role, and then now the mother have to fight literally and be the man and the woman, and we definitely have to give so much love to our mothers, uh, because black women have taken so much for the absence of black men that all of us, the real true black men, should not be hesitant to say, thank you, because black women have literally gave it all for us to even be in this position to have a chance to change. And I think, airs with Black Family Day, a lot of people probably didn't realize that what you was attempting to do was intervene in the community, because you didn't call it the Fillmore Black Family Day. You didn't call it, you called it's Black Family Day. So you had the vision and you understood that, first of all, this is for everybody. And I'm not going to limit it. You didn't call it, name it after a neighborhood, which we know we had the violence happening here in the Fillmore area, but that was also taking place throughout the city. So you had this welcoming spirit about Black Family Day. What do you think, though, in terms of the Black Family Day event, which touched so many people, helped so many people, you've seen so many people, and even yourself and myself, we went through year after year trying to continue to pump the importance of family. What do you think about all what's been done with that, and what is your vision for Black Family Day going forward?
Well, when I first developed Black Family Day, I didn't know what I was doing. It was a couple of us that came together. But the ultimate decision, to call it Black Family Day, and got a lot of response from different people, like, why you calling it Black Family Day and don't call it Black Family Day. Most of it from our people.
Right.
But
Politics.
after we started it, I looked around and I found that Black Family Day is a popular event. Of course, Black Family Week in UC Davis, the college do Black Family Week. But we found Black Family Day all the way in UK. You know, so we researched it, and what we're trying to do was come up with a Black Family Day calendar. Vallejo just started their Black Family Day last year. It was their first year. So I went out there to support them. Um, but like I said, the goal of Black Family Day was to reintroduce uh, people to a day in the park separate from any other event.
Mm-hmm.
No booths, no food booths, none of that stuff. Of course, you had some local, people selling some local goods and stuff, but you're not coming here to pay for food, man. We got some food covered for you. We got some music covered for you. We got some games for you to play. It was really trying to build up a family unit, and you don't see that in many places in many events, So over the years, it's just, when you're doing events and things, of course you're the producer, you run around doing a lot of stuff. So, sometimes I don't get to see what's actually going on, but I know that it's big and it gave a lot, into the community. Um, and unfortunately, there's families that didn't make it to Black Family Day and every year, but it's people that seen it and now they know what's on the calendar. And the vision, of course, we're not going to probably have it this year due to all the stuff that's going on.
Right.
But hopefully, the vision is really to see, since we're not going to have it, is to see, and I guess should have been using this platform at this time, but after this, this virus thing, it can still be looked at as what did you do in this time?
Right.
Did y'all fight and argue? Did y'all get closer as a family unit? What's the outcome, of this virus, and, how can we use this as a platform now to say, okay, well, let's come together, bring your family together. Y'all was, quarantined for a month. Come share your story with this family on how you survived, you know, and let's talk about these survival modes and what happened within that time frame and give some other people some hope. I think that's where we got to kind of generate now is Black families mentoring other families
Yeah.
during their struggles.
That's a good, yeah, like a family, adopt a family.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay, man, I
Yeah.
understand that, y'all going through it, whatever it is, but let me just give you a little insight,
Yeah.
because nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors with any family. Sometimes we look at other families and say, oh man, they're doing real good, but so I think that's maybe the next step is adopting a family, Black families adopting families and seeing how,
Right.
we can move forward and bringing that type of spirit will end up building a bigger Black Family Day.
Well, that man, that hits. Or that puts everything back in perspective because I think too, if we really start focusing family to family, we will be better off if something like this happened again in the near future, where, like you say, people are dealing with their own internal issues and they need family support. Well, so we up on that time again for almost an hour, and but I do want everyone to know that it's not again doom or gloom. This is not a session that me and Eris is putting together to just make every feel like, man, wow, are you giving us hope or are you giving us doom? No, this is by design. We just want to have this discussion. Now, I do apologize that, we need to create a better way to communicate with the viewers, and we are working on taking this to another level, whether that might be a YouTube platform or a way that you can even call in. Um, I just got to do the technical stuff because I got all the equipment, but I got to do all the technical stuff to make that happen because there may be questions that people have out there that you need unbiased, independent voice to weigh in on directions. And this is why we're going to change the topic, believe it or not, and speak about some other things because we life has got to be bigger than COVID-19 because there's other things that we do have to uh, anticipate because we got to talk about finances, we got to talk about relationships, we got to talk about family, we got to talk about uh, survival, but we got to also talk about our youth and young adults. We got to talk about what life look like for our organizations, how we're going to deal with our schools and our well-being of the the spiritual community. So this thing is big. This is really a lot that we need to address, and we definitely need for people to weigh in and bring solutions and bring your own suggestions that we will be able to walk with in lockstep. So within a week or two, the goal is that we will still be under the maybe with the shed in certain guidelines and restrictions. However, it's nothing I think wrong for us to start having some type of settings and meet even in person that don't uh, jeopardize anybody's health or compromise anybody where they feel like they may be contaminated with this virus. But we have to meet, y'all. This is my point. We have to talk. We have to communicate. Some people may feel more comfortable communicating by telephone or by the internet, other ways. But the point is, we have to communicate. You can't stay at home and just say, I'm not coming out or doing anything until they tell me to come out and do something. It's not realistic. We're, like I said before, social beings. And, the more we isolate ourselves, the more frustrated we get. And the more frustrated we get, the more we lash out at each other. And we now are even being, I think, negative that, is not helpful. So if you got your stimulus check, if you got some things that you want to do to help your income, well, let's have that conversation because at the end of the day, we might have to create an organization out of this whole thing that's taking place. We might have to create an organization of organizations. We might have to create some type of emergency plan again that whatever happened in the future, that we have a staging area, that we know how to create our own triage and apply our resources to whoever, whatever family is impacted the most. So, Eris, do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here for just today and pick it up on another scene later on some of the things we talked about today or some of the things that you want to just talk freely
Well,
to?
no, I think you hit it on the nail on the nose. Is we're coming out of I like to say we're spiritually, of course, is always you're either going into a storm, you're in the middle of a storm, or you're coming out of one. But get ready because there's another storm coming.
Another story, right?
So it's to prepare. And sometimes they hit us in the impact, and we're not prepared. And so I would say in that sense, we need to get prepared. And this just goes with everything that we talked about: getting the families in order, the economics.
Right.
Don't go buy no brand new car off the lot, $1,200 that you get and the $500 per kid. Don't do that. Save the $1,200. Because you probably ain't paid your rent. So first thing you probably do is should pay your rent. If you didn't pay your rent for last month. So there's some things that we need to discuss. And maybe bring in somebody. A financial, advisor, analyst on board, and just talk about some investments that might happen, things like that. But yeah, I think it's just
It's time.
it's
Right.
that time,
Yeah.
and we just need to hear from the viewers on what you see and what we need.
Well, this is a good way to start that conversation and that dialogue. And well, thank you again, as always, for being on the front line and speaking straight words and giving us guidance and insight. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, even if it was just for 1 minute or 2 minutes. We just got to keep it going. And I want to send a shout out to those who sent the kind messages and stuff. I see you. I see my niece. I see Nelly. I see you, and the list goes on. Lamar, I seen you. I seen all the people out there. My family in Mississippi. I'm very concerned. Of course, we got tornadoes happening in Mississippi, where my family come from here in the states. And I send my love out to all my family in Mississippi as well as Texas. And, I think we all need to kind of like get back to the basics again. And we'll be back. And we have more information and updates, and we have other topics. And again, we'll try to do as much as we can to keep coming out with another perspective. Because you're going to hear many perspectives, of course, again, from the media, and you're going to hear many perspectives from city government. But you need, again, an independent perspective that is coming from the people, from the heart, to the people, to the heart, which always is almost like a healing medicine in itself. So, with that, peace. Take care of yourself. Until we see each other again, shout out.